we are channel agnostic in terms of what that deliverable is going to be. And our focus is on making sure that you have a strong connection between your brand, your franchisee, and your end user customer. We're doing some exciting things not necessarily just in the franchise space, but one of our larger clients is a utility. It's an energy utility. It's low engagement category, and they are measured based on customer satisfaction. So, what can an agency and what can communications do to help improve customer sat for a brand? Well, it turns out it can do a lot.
Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by NetCertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. NetCertive's Madeline Park talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Art of Franchise Marketing. I'm your host, Madeline Zook. Today we have Jan, and Jan has quite the history in franchising. I don't think that I will do you justice by introing you, Jan, so I'm just going to let you do it yourself. But I think that you are going to be one of our top guests because of all of your experience. So Jan, take it away. Tell me who you are, what you've done, and why franchising.
Oh, shoot. That's a whole lot to cover. First, thank you so much, Madeline, for including me on your podcast. I'm honored to have been chosen to participate. It's quite an honor. I am Janet Muhleman, President of Regroup. Regroup is a brand transformation agency, a full-service marketing communications agency based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It is the fourth generation of a company that I co-founded, and I'll date myself here, in 1974 when I was at The Ohio State University, and we had the good fortune of having a little pizza company come and ask us to develop a new identity for them. And that was Tom Monaghan of Domino's Pizza. He thought he had lost the use of the name Domino's Pizza because he had failed to respond to a protest that had been filed by Amstar, the Domino sugar people, against his registration. And he wanted to see if we could develop a new identity that would be able to take a new name, such as Red Domino's Pizza. So we developed a modular identity in 1974 with red and blue modules, so that if he lost the lawsuit, he could flip out the inside graphics of the identity and keep going, which in fact we did. He did lose the lawsuit at district court in Atlanta, and we flipped over the identity to Pizza Dispatch, kept going as Pizza Dispatch, and then when he won at appellate court, we flipped it back to Domino's Pizza. So it worked exactly as we intended it. After we developed the new identity, he asked us in 1975 to move to Ann Arbor to take on his quote-unquote national advertising for 85 units. We did that. We had this incredible relationship where we would meet with Tom on Saturdays, and Tom would say, we're not opening stores fast enough, and how can I grow faster? And we'd say, gee, Tom, that sounds like a design problem. Why don't you let us help you do that? So we actually designed the first refrigerated modular make line. We designed the stores. We did the site selection, lease negotiation, construction management for 500 pizza stores.
Huh.
We developed their training materials. We developed their awards programs. We did all their internal communications to their franchisees. And then we also took on their national advertising and helped them grow to $2.5 billion in sales and 5,500 units internationally. So that's how we got started in franchising.
I literally was not expecting you to be like, oh, well, it's a design problem. And I'm thinking like, oh, maybe they're going to, redo the marketing pieces. No, you redesigned the whole franchise for them. My goodness, Jan.
We basically did. And at the time, I mean, we were a really good team with Tom. And I still have the pleasure of getting together with him periodically and reminiscing about old times. But Tom was a giant entrepreneur. He had this vision for being the institutionalizing pizza delivery. And he was the first really to make it a professional institution.
Sure.
And so he had all these great ideas, including the 30-minute delivery, which we basically created. The 30 minutes are free campaign. We created the Void in 1989 and really put pizza delivery on the map. But a lot of it was having this wonderful client relationship where we could work collaboratively with him and the franchisees. We helped them set up the first franchise advisory council, set up the first franchise marketing council. And so we would work, many of the best ideas that we developed actually came out of the field. So the deep dish concept, the thin crust concept, all those other new products came from franchisees. So we have this tremendous respect for the synergy, the positive energy that is created when a system is working together with their franchisees to innovate and to drive change and to achieve incredible success.
Now, did you and your team have franchise experience before this that you were able to go in and say, all right, Domino's, this is, stuff that we can help you implement? Or did you guys really learn on the fly with Tom?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
My co-founding partner had actually worked for Tom in the 60s when Tom had 3 units.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so Tom had a lot of confidence in him, and he had worked with some of the franchisees in the system before, so we were connected in that way. But a lot of what we developed, a lot of the systems we put in place, which, for example, we activated all of their co-ops in the country. In like about 3 weeks, we did this massive initiative where we evaluated what their media spend was in each of the markets, and we actually activated all their media co-ops all at once.
Wow.
And setting up those kinds of systems, setting up their advertising royalty system, those were things we did as we went along. So we learned that as we went along, and we were very early members of the International Franchise Association.
Sure.
So we had the benefit of going to those meetings, and it was a really, really, I mean, you go to the meetings today and there's 4,000 people at a conference. When we started going, there were like 200 people at a conference.
Goodness.
So it's changed, but all of those opportunities, all those things that we did, that we learned, we were learning in a very collaborative way.
And I love that you say that, because I think that the essence of franchising has remained the same in terms of the collaboration, and those truly successful franchises are the ones that can grow to scale and still do that. And I have to say, just from a personal level, I don't know how many times Domino's has literally saved my life, Jan. Like, whether it's like late night food, or I'm traveling overseas and it's the only thing I can eat, or one time I was stranded and a Domino's delivery driver was like, I will give you a ride to where you're going. Like, they've literally saved my life a million times. I could not be more of an advocate for Domino's. One, because the innovation is always there. The brand is remarkable, and it just they always follow through. And the funny thing is, you talk about like the 30 minutes or less or you get a free pizza. I moved to the house I'm in now, and we must have been like just on the like skirt of the territory, because they would come within like 35 minutes and I didn't care. I'm just like, oh, whatever, pizza. So I had like 4 weeks of just like free pizzas because they would miss it by 5 minutes. And then finally they were like, I think that they either like engulfed our territory and then, or got more delivery drivers, and they're like, no more free pizza. And I was like,
Yeah.
dang.
Well, actually, after we parted ways with them in the 90s, I believe, they did have a lawsuit that was predicated on their delivery guarantee. Now, the reality is, it's fast in the store, so it's quick to your door is kind of the philosophy, that it's really being able to make the pizza really quickly so that it's lower rack time, so the delivery person actually has time to get it there.
Right.
So speeding was never, ever something that Domino's required their drivers to do, but there was a lawsuit against them that ended up with them eliminating the guarantee. And
Makes
so
sense.
They don't do it anymore. But
Everyone takes away the fun stuff. I mean, I was getting free pizza, so if they don't do it, then that franchisee is not within their FDD. But
well, and really interesting, because we were doing a lot of local store marketing and direct mail, and flyers and that sort of thing for them. And when you talk about delivery territories, their delivery territories were very, very precise. So
wow.
We got nasty grams from a franchisee if we went outside by even like one house outside of their territory when we did an ad campaign. So
Oh my gosh, yeah, because of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the precision of which you guys much have had to focus, because now, click a couple buttons and you've got, the perfect, zip code territory. But back then it was a lot more complicated.
Yeah, it was.
And I feel like we could talk about Domino's forever, but I have a list of all your accolades, and I'm like, good Lord, this is like a 5-series podcast. But talk to me about, whether it's after the Domino's era or during it. It looks like you have also worked with some other small companies such as Ben and Jerry's, Molly Maid. So talk to me about how you continued to evolve in that franchising space, and kind of why you loved it, because you're good at it. To be able to figure that out on the fly and have a success such as Domino's, like, clearly something clicked for you and your team.
Well, and I think it was what I started out talking about is the importance of having an inclusive organization with the franchisees. And what we discovered, and not surprisingly if you are in franchising, is that your franchisee, your owner, is your first line customer. Even when you're doing B2C communication, if you don't have your franchisee aligned with you and in support of whatever you're doing, we were spending like $65, $85, $100 million a year in ad campaigns, national ad campaigns. If the local franchisee had not had his crew meeting already, did not have his in-store communication was not ready for the promotion, it would fail. And so we recognized, we got really, really, really good at getting the franchisees aligned around the brand. And understanding that we needed to be able to approach them inclusively and get them to buy into these new initiatives. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was a promotion, a new product, or a new store design. We had to get the franchisees to support. And ultimately, we have such respect for franchisees who put their money on the line. It's, we worked with another franchise concept, which I won't name. I knew we were in trouble when their CEO said, I really hate working with franchisees. I just see it as a distribution system.
Oh boy.
Their concept wasn't thought out for different markets. We had, and a lot of women bought into this concept, and we would go to these meetings, and there would be these franchisees saying, I have mortgaged my house. I have put my life savings into this, and I'm failing. You have to help me. And the concept really wasn't proven enough for the markets that they were going into. And I made the mistake. I got glassy-eyed about the concept. I actually invested with the local franchisee in Detroit, and then I started digging into their P&Ls, and I'm going, you guys can't make money. It's not going to work. And they ended up bankrupting, and the franchisor ended up bankrupting. And many, many, many franchisees lost their savings. Wow. And so one of the criteria that we use when we look at a concept is, do you have as part of your mission the success and profitability of your franchisees? So yes, you want to grow your brand, and most of them are consumer or business to business. You want to grow your brand, but your responsibility is that you have to support your franchisee.
I think that is, and I'm going to sound like such a dweeb here, but like it almost makes me tear up to hear an agency say that, because a lot of times on the agency side, it's we'll take you, because they have those rose-colored glasses or, the big paycheck that comes with it. But I'm a franchisee myself. I was a franchisor. And so to see an agency or a supplier that also has that bottom line, your franchisees' success at heart, is, I think it's rare. And it's, while I think a lot of people might disagree and say, oh no, that's what they all do, to have it be one at the forefront of a partnership is definitely something that you don't come across every day. And I feed my kids with the money we make in franchising. So, that there is something to be said for, the franchisors that might not be fit to be franchisors, but doesn't mean that they can't necessarily be successful. So I love that. And it's definitely a nod to making sure that franchisees and franchisors alike are doing their due diligence, when it comes to those big investments, whether it's an agency or buying into a franchise. Because, you and I have probably seen it wildly successful and the other way around. So you mentioned that this was a concept that was, a lot of women in it. And I want to expand on that because I'm, champion of women. My thing is like, diamonds can cut through glass, like you can hit the glass ceiling and keep going. But I'm only successful today because of what women like you have done for us in the industry. So talk to me about what it was like coming up and owning brands and being, the leader as a woman in what used to be, kind of a boys' club.
Well, it was. It was a boys' club. I had the advantage of owning my business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had to deal with bankers who wouldn't give me loans, who froze my line of credit. I had a $10.5 million line of credit, and they froze it at $700,000 because they didn't have confidence in me of being able to run the business when I took it over. I bought my partner out,
Mm-hmm.
took it over, and the bank said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I've been here running the business all along." And they said, "Well, we're not real sure we want to do business with you." And they froze the line of credit. So I have experienced it from the financial side.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1989, when I sold my business to a larger agency, the one thing I didn't check was the culture of the company. And I sold to an old boys club.
Oh, God.
And I didn't realize that.
Sure.
Because I figured I was going to stay independent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tap into all the resources that they had because they were a leading edge customer relationship management company at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited to become part of that. But I was able to stay separate and independent for 3 years until they folded me in.
Mm-hmm.
But I was the first woman on the board, and I discovered that decisions were taken outside the board meeting. That when the chairman asked if there are any more questions, one of the other board members pulled me aside and he says, when he asks if there are any more questions, they really don't want any more questions. And so having the experience of being a woman in a large corporate environment, because ultimately we sold that agency to Omnicom.
Mm-hmm.
And then Omnicom folded us into BBD&O, which is when I took a group and spun out again.
Mm-hmm.
But learning the importance of culture. And when I sold to them, we had a 50-child corporately sponsored daycare on site. They didn't want to have anything to do with on-site daycare.
Ugh.
Right? And no, we're not doing that.
You're talking to a girl with a newborn now, so that I'm just fired up now. I'm fired up, Jan.
Well, I did when we were 85% women as an agency, and like I said, I didn't feel the barriers when I was running my own agency until I sold and became part of another agency where I didn't have control.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, holy cow, there are people out there that don't think the same way I do.
Right.
So there's a line, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it says, before you can lead, you must first know what it is like to follow. And my experience of becoming part of a larger corporation was I had never had to follow anybody before. And that was real eye-opening for me, and it taught me a bunch of lessons. One is how important keeping communication channels open throughout your company are. I never want any of my people to feel that they can't just come and talk to me about things that are going on in the organization. I want them to feel like they have an opportunity to change the company. And you didn't get that when there were a bunch of old guys at the top running the company.
And you say that, but I heard that there was a story that you followed the men into the bathroom because you didn't want to be left out of a conversation.
Well, Andre got that just a little bit wrong, a little bit twisted because
Okay.
I didn't do that. But
Okay.
about the same time, I joined a women's executive organization. At the time, it's called Committee of 200. It's now called C200,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a organization of women CEOs who, and initially it was entrepreneurs,
Okay.
but now it's corporate CEOs as well as entrepreneurs. And one of the women told this story that
Oh my
she had
gosh.
been brought into a major corporation as the CEO, and she was in a boardroom, and they took a break, and she was the only woman like I was in my situation. They took a break, and all the guys kept talking as they went to the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
And she went in the restroom with them. Because she said, if you're going to keep talking about this, I'm coming with you.
I love it. I
didn't do it, but
I
it is
adore
a
it. But I
true
feel
story.
like you would have done that.
I would have done that.
So, it pains me to say this, but we still live in a world where there are boys clubs and franchising is very traditional. So, what advice do you have for women coming up, for women in the franchising now, through all of your experience on when they come to those battles or those crossroads of sit down, little girl, it's time for the big boys to talk.
Yeah.
What is your advice there?
Well, I do think it's important to lean in. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is important. Um, you pick your battles.
Okay, I like
And
that.
you pick your battles, and you always add value.
Mm-hmm.
I feel and I don't want to characterize myself as a female trait, but I believe that often if you can sit back and listen and have an observation and then lean in with that observation and say, I'm hearing, acknowledge everything you're hearing, and say, have you thought about this?
Hmm.
And if you can insert yourself in a way that is non-confrontational to other people in the room, but add value, then ultimately I think that will earn you respect. To try to be confrontational about it is not going to get you anywhere.
I think that is great advice, and definitely advice that I need to take for myself, because I think a lot of times, and I'm the personality that's like, don't come at me with fire because I will come right back at you, that you have to often be the loudest in the room. And I think that you can apply that sort of thinking to whether it's, franchisee coaching or trying to work with a brand that you want to rebrand. And that's just not always the truth. I think what it comes down to is people want to know they're being heard.
Yes.
And once they're heard, then it creates more of a collaborative environment, which kind of brings us, full circle to how you've run your business and how you're running Regroup today. Do you think that collaborative nature, that feeling of anybody in your company can come to you and feel like they can make the business better, do you think that helps inspire better ideas out of your organization? I mean, I'm just thinking about, I'm seeing all these brands you've worked with, all of their, the incredible things the brand has done, how they look from brick and mortar to their, their campaigns. And, that doesn't come from one person. That doesn't necessarily come from a couple people. So do you think that culture of collaboration has helped in terms of the deliverables you're giving to clients?
I would hope so. I would like to believe so. And it's interesting because Andre is relatively new to our team, but he has gotten his CFE. He is excited about being in the franchise space. And one of the challenges that I've given him
Mm-hmm.
is I'm fairly well known in the franchise community, at least the old franchise community. The old guard knows me. Um, but it's because I have participated on committees, and
Mm-hmm.
I really have approached it from a standpoint of service
Sure.
and trying to add value. And I said to him, your opportunity is to, I don't want to be the only person in our company that people find value in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't do this by myself. I did not create all these things by myself. I've had an incredible team that properly briefed. I mean, just from an efficiency standpoint, we all can't be at the front line, but
Right.
properly briefed and given the opportunity to interface and to listen well,
Mm-hmm.
they are incredibly creative. And so, my assignment to Andre is that you need to be as connected and respected as I have been historically, which
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate. But there's a whole bunch of us back here that you're going to represent,
Mm-hmm.
and I want everyone to know that it's not the Jan show.
Right. Right. And I think we talk about leadership, we talk about winning, we talk about partnerships. But I think at the heart of it all is, and especially in franchising, is helping one another, whether it's your clients, your employees, your franchisees. And so when it comes to franchising, being able to lead with that in mind is what it helps make you exponentially more successful than the next person who might be trying to retrofit into franchising because it seems like, a big money maker, which I think we're seeing a lot of now as franchising is growing. A lot of companies, tech companies, ad agencies are realizing, oh, there's this one brand that comes with, hundreds of other little tiny ones, and that could be, a big paycheck. And I've just never seen a successful brand with that way of thinking, or a successful company with that way of thinking, really penetrate the market well, because they don't quite understand that human nature of it all.
We regularly counsel people who want to they have a concept, they might have a couple locations,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to franchise it. And we regularly tell them don't.
Wow.
Partly because sometimes their concept would be, it would actually be better if it was corporately run,
Mm-hmm.
where they could control that channel all the way through. And other times it's because, like the previous example that I gave, they're looking at it as a way to grow with someone else's money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Got it.
don't look at it that way. You're taking responsibility, you're sharing responsibility for the success of the franchise owner that you are selling to.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they are not ready to embrace helping other people grow, they better not franchise.
And I think my next question on that is, I think most franchisors, whether it's they decide to franchise or they've started with that in mind, always want to have some sort of firm hold on their brand. So how do you tell the difference between the people who should probably keep it on a corporate run side and the people who will do well once the reins are loosened a little bit?
Well, for me, and the particular situation I'm thinking of is it's how does the business model break down? And so if there was a concept that could be licensed instead of franchised, so it's
Okay.
not a full service business model, business operating model, um, it actually would be better. And I couldn't see in that situation how the franchisee was going to make money.
Gotcha. Okay.
It didn't make sense to me. It made more sense if it was centrally managed. So why are you wanting to have all these little franchisees out here? Are you just going to use them as salespeople? Are they actually going to execute anything locally, or is it all going to be done centrally and then distributed out?
Got
So the
it.
business model didn't make sense, even though they were looking at it as sales distribution channel,
Mm. Okay.
and not a business that had that required that individual or would benefit from having the individual at a local level
Wow.
other than
Okay.
sales.
Yeah, no, I like that way of explaining it a lot because I think I talk to a lot of people who don't quite understand franchising or they don't understand the big differences between like a Starbucks and a franchise outside of, there's a board and then there's a lot of board members. They don't really get the split. So I like the idea of if you're looking at franchising as another way to do your sales, it's probably not going to be met with very warm embraces after, the first couple months. So I know we're coming up on time. I feel like I could talk to you all day. I kind of want to talk to you all day. But talk to me now about Regroup. What are you doing now? You've spun all of these, your experience and your companies now into a Regroup. So yeah, I want the people to know what you guys are doing, who you are, and what kind of services you provide.
Well, we're doing a lot of really exciting things, actually. We, like the rest of the world, have migrated over to being a significant portion of our business is delivered through digital channels,
Sure.
like everybody. So, but we take a very holistic look at someone's business concept, and we always start with brand. We always start with strategy. We always end up almost all the time recommending if they're not capturing the voice of their customer, we often start with research. So we have kind of what we call our 5D process: discover, define, design, deliver, and data. And so we almost always run people through that process when we start working with them. And it is really important to us that the brand has been defined, the customer segments are defined and understood, and what is the business problem? So we always start with, okay, you think you need a website, or you think you need a digital ad campaign. What is the problem you're trying to solve? So that's where our focus always starts. We are diverse enough. We have almost all of us came from big agencies, and we are what we would traditionally call full service. So we have our creative team, our media team, our digital media team, paid search. So we are channel agnostic in terms of what that deliverable is going to be. And our focus is on making sure that you have a strong connection between your brand, your franchisee, and your end user customer. We're doing some exciting things not necessarily just in the franchise space, but one of our larger clients is a utility. It's an energy utility. It's low engagement category, and they are measured based on customer satisfaction. So
Okay.
what can an agency and what can communications do to help improve customer sat for a brand? Well, it turns out it can do a lot. And we have been held accountable to initially JD Power scores and then NPS scores, and we've been able to demonstrate that with the right communications, you can actually increase customer satisfaction. And you can lift those scores if someone can recall your message and if your message was relevant to them. So it's been really fun to work for a company. Quite honestly, it's run by a bunch of engineers. They love data. And so it's data-driven communications, and we get metrics back that we can say, yeah, we moved the needle on that. So that's a big part of where we are continuing to go and evolve, is making sure that we are a creative organization, but having the availability of data to help us hone that creativity so that it's relevant and gets results is sort of where we are.
I think that that's a super important message, and quite frankly, something that makes sense, but it's never really pictured that way in terms of, the marketing message and the communications you send out really do have an impact on the customer satisfaction. And you might think, oh, sure, maybe you get, I had my car serviced once and they had the tech do a video of, his whole check. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But if you're getting that on, a 1, 2, 3 intimate level, that really, really is a game changer, especially like you said, for a low engagement category, or, I own home service brands. So it's not this, let's see your kids jumping at the trampoline park fun thing. It's, I'm washing your outside windows type thing. So, honing that communication to exactly what that your target audience or your clients want, is something so simple, but very complex and very important. And I like that you break it down, with the data. What would you say to brands? Because, a lot of these brands listening are already established, but may still be struggling with, their customer voice, customer acquisition, franchise development. What do you say to them if they feel like, well, I've already got a brand, I've already got all of this built out. Do I have to redo it all? Do I have to pay a ton of money to, have an agency get involved? How would you talk them through that process?
Well, that's part of what we do every day when we talk to a prospect.
Right.
Is we don't want to waste their money. And that's another thing when someone comes to us and says, I need to rebrand. And we go, why? Why do you need to rebrand? And so some of what we end up doing is counseling people on, we need to find out what are the core elements of your brand that are essential to your brand, and it could be everything from your core values to your mission, your position, your purpose. But what are those core elements, and do the people who you are interfacing with know them? Are you doing a good job communicating who you are to them? And this is particularly important with people of your age group, the younger generations, who are looking for purpose-driven companies. They want transparent companies. They want to know who you are, and do I want to do business with you? Do I want to give you my money? And particularly, we've done a lot of work in the Gen Z category, where we've uncovered that, in this particular case, it's credit unions. Young people don't know what a credit union is. They don't know that they are member-owned. They don't know that anyone can join. They don't know that the purpose of a credit union is to serve its members.
Mm-hmm.
not to serve a giant corporation.
Right.
Those are all things that when you pull them out of the brand and share them with your target audience, they go, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I'd be interested in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's really important when we approach an established brand is to make sure we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Mm-hmm.
and to make sure that they not only have defined for their internal audiences who they are, but they have been able to translate that in a way that resonates with their target audiences.
Sure. One, couldn't agree more. Two, I feel like that little kid that like sees Mickey Mouse for the first time and just doesn't want to let you go. Like, you are just a wealth of knowledge, Jen. Like, you can be my Mickey Mouse, you can be my Walt Disney. But before we go, and the only reason I could keep going, and I literally asked my nanny, I was like, can you stay an extra hour? I feel like this might go long. And she's like, no, sorry. I'm like, shoot. I would love to know, and I ask people this off the cuff because it's fun to hear their responses, is if you had one piece of advice to give to a franchisee, what would that be? And if you had one piece of advice to give to a franchisor, what would that be? I've had everything from don't do it, run away, to...
Well, are you talking a franchisee prospect or a franchise?
No, a current franchisee.
A current franchisee. Well, sort of the same thing that I've been talking about in terms of the franchisor-franchisee relationship,
Mm-hmm.
I think goes for the franchisee employee relationship. And those people who work for you are the face of your brand. And
Mm-hmm.
so particularly if you are in a service business of any kind, and particularly where you yourself won't necessarily be present when there is a customer transaction. It is so important that you provide the right training, you provide the right communication tools, and you provide the values, and you have a way to monitor the performance at point of sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you don't have customer sat programs, if you don't have a way to get feedback, if you're not watching on a minute-by-minute basis your social media channels, you have to manage that internal channel that you have and the experience you're delivering to your customer, because that's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for the franchisor.
I was going to say, you could relay that same piece.
Same goes for the franchisor. It's the franchisor's responsibility to make sure that the franchisee has the tools to do that. And because ultimately, you're all in it together.
Mm-hmm.
Your end goal is to do better than the competition, but to really deliver value and to create an emotional and rational bond with your end user customer. And so it's all about the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what can the franchisor do? Where does his or her role start and stop, and where does the franchisee start and stop? And it's a continuum. There's Domino's Pizza, real quick story.
Yeah.
Domino's Pizza, Tom Monaghan loved hiring consultants. And one of the consultants that he hired was I Check Adizes. And Adizes had a operational management approach
Mm-hmm.
that had a concept called CAPI, and it's Comprehensive Authority, Power, and Influence. What he taught was that in an organization, you rarely have all three of those in one person.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have a franchisor who has the authority to tell you what to do. You have the franchisee who has the power to execute it. And in order to make sure it's happening, you have to have influence to get everyone aligned to do what they need to do in order to have the end result be the outcome.
Sure.
So this concept of capping really works in a franchise system.
Wow. I love that. Love that. Well, Jan, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I could pepper you with questions all day. If people want to connect with you or get in touch with Regroup, where should they go?
Well, regroup.us is our website, and my email is Janet, Janet.Muhleman, Muhleman @regroup.us.
Perfect. Jan, thank you so much. And we'll be sure to look for you at the next IFA, which I'm sure will probably be like 5,000 people.
And I am happy to chat with you anytime offline.
Oh,
I also was a single mom during this whole time period, which is one of the reasons I started a daycare. But I got lots of mom stories too.
Jan, I have 3 right now. So I'll tell you, because I have 7 minutes until the nanny leaves. So I was... my longtime, boyfriend at the time, he had 2 kids and they were 1 and 3. And during COVID, I came down to visit and my flight home got canceled and I never went home. So I went from like me and my dog to all of a sudden I was a full-time stepmom and had a career. And now a couple years later, I have a 4-month-old. She just learned to roll over. She's trying to kill herself in her sleep suit. So I'm like awake every 20 minutes at night. So sorry if I'm a little like hazy-eyed. But yeah, I would definitely take you up on that because I feel like being a working mom is a struggle. It's hard. It's really hard to balance right now, both because I feel like I'm either, if I'm successful at one, I'm failing at the other, or vice versa.
It's not easy. So, but congratulations on being a new mom.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll connect again offline, and then I will aim to have this up in the next couple weeks, and then I'll send you guys everything ahead of time, and we'll go from there. And then we also have, we just had one today, but the next one will be not next month, but the month after, executive franchise roundtables. I'd love you to join. We have about, at this point, I think it's like 70 brand execs join, and they just talk shop about what's working, what's not working, who knows who has a vendor for this. So I think that you'd be great. Andre can join, anyone from your team. So I'll send that invite over as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks again. And
thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by NetCertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netcertive.com.